I, for one, am shocked we never got more branded video games back in the day. All you would need to do is watch a Saturday morning commercial block to see that the landscape was ripe for games based on products. Could you imagine tearing shit up as the Jolly Green Giant, or a fighting game where all the cereal mascots could beat the piss out of one another? We did get a few branded games, though. You may remember McDonald's having a few, or the 2 Noid games put out by Domino's Pizza. The California Raisins almost got a game, by Capcom no less, but it was cancelled because, get this, people weren't eating that many raisins anymore. Chester Cheetah got 2 games, but even more prolific was Spot, the mascot for 7-Up. Yes, what you're looking at is the little red dot between the 7 and the up that's been anthropomorphized into a nice, succinct little distillation of the 90s. Buddy got 4 games spread out amongst a whole slew of platforms. The first one released was Spot the video game, which looked like this. Yeah, somehow the kids were not blown away, but 7-Up said, let's keep going! Next came Spot the Cool Adventure for Game Boy, which was ironically a modified port of MC Kids, a McDonald's game. Well, third time's the charm with Cool Spot, released on a multitude of platforms, but for this review we will of course be looking at the version released on the Super Nintendo in 1993. This game was developed and published by Virgin Games, and if you couldn't tell, just press a few buttons before the title screen to stretch the logo out nice and big. It is a platformer, but it's a bit of a run and gun too, which we'll talk about when we get to the gameplay. For now, I want to look at the overall design of the game, which isn't bad, if not a little too steeped in rad dude tropes and 7-Up branding. Speaking of which, I cannot remember the last time I drank a 7-Up. In fact, I need to check if they still even make it. Yep, they do. Anyways, that logo is all over this bloody game, including a bonus level that takes place inside what appears to be the tallest bottle of 7-Up known to man. The power-ups are all on brand, if not a little confusing, like a 1-Up that looks like the 7-Up logo is neat, but then there's also a 7-Up logo which I can collect, and unfortunately, it does not give me 7 lives, but 7 spots, which are these red circles I need to collect that are the spots in the 7-Up logo, and like, isn't that what I'm supposed to be? Why aren't they cool like me? Are these things like invalid spot embryos or something? Anyways, there's also this glass bottle of 7-Up that gives you health, and it kinda sorta maybe really looks like a crack pipe. Spot himself is teeny tiny, and I think that was a great decision because it's kinda cool hopping around giant shoes and a big ol' Sony Walkman. The concept of small things being really big is always fun, and games like Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers did a good job with it, but I think they squandered the opportunity to really have fun with it here. Jumping over boiling pots in a kitchen or ducking under spinning lawnmower blades would have been so badass. But here we just really only get a few moments that show Spot's scale compared to the rest of the world. Later levels like this one are really just a collection of wacky assets that don't provide any basis for comparison. Overall, the design is good, but it could have been better. You're gonna like the gameplay though, since it is, as I mentioned, something of a platformer mixed with a run and gun. Most levels are pretty open-ended and have you hopping up and down and around, collecting the aforementioned red spots and avoiding enemies. At the same time, you could shoot what appears to be some kind of carbonation projectile in every direction, including from your butt when you're descending a rope, and you can't help but get Contra or Sunset Riders vibes with the amount you're unloading at all times. Unlike those games, however, you only get one weapon, which is a bummer. Like, how great would a spread gun have been here? Depending on the difficulty setting, you need to collect a certain amount of red spots before you're able to rescue a captured buddy and end the level. Due to how well hidden some of these spots are, you're going to be backtracking often, which adds a degree of non-linearity, which is nice. Some of the platforming is pretty crazy too, and is surprisingly hard at any difficulty. Check out this train level. I'm supposed to land on these tiny UFOs while this insane scrolling background goes by. Thankfully, there are very few instant death pits, but falling all the way the hell down here really sucks. The controls are decent, but there's no run button, and Spot's speed is dictated by how long you hold the directional pad down, which can make for moments where your walking speed can suddenly increase and get you into trouble. It also makes jumps range from pathetic to absolutely screen clearing, depending on factors that don't always feel like they're within your control. Damn it! You have a health meter that's abstractly represented by your icon getting progressively floopier the more damage you take until you're toast. And I think I would have preferred something a little more concrete here. At least Doom Guy had a health percentage next to his gnarled face. Enemies are very abundant and are mostly vulnerable to your little spritz cannon, but my god, sometimes they just come out of nowhere! The last level on hard mode has these friggin' dragonflies that are the devil incarnate. Sometimes you'll die without even seeing what hit you. And another gameplay trope that was conspicuously absent was any kind of boss at the end of a level. Yeah, there are literally no bosses in this game, and once again we see a huge missed opportunity, especially with the whole little character big world world aesthetic. Like, imagine something cool, like being in a mouse hole fighting a giant cat paw trying to get at you or something. So much this game could have been. If you want to be extra and go over and above collecting the red spots, you'll be rewarded with the bonus level I mentioned earlier. Hopping around inside the giant 7-Up bottle and bouncing off fizz bubbles is quite fun, and you get the chance to earn a letter, which essentially acts as a continue. The letters spell out Uncola, which is a baffling word that means absolutely nothing to me in the year 2024. Funny enough, the PAL region release of this game stripped all of the branding and changed the word Uncola to version. Which would be hilarious if you didn't know that that was the name of the developer. Like, is there any specific reason you guys chose this word? But, all things considered, solid gameplay that is better than it has any right to be. I'm gonna rip into the graphics pretty hard here because it seems like all Western games at the time had this garish, oversaturated aesthetic, and Cool Spot was no different. Some levels like the beach level look okay, while others like the toy store just hurt my eyes. The worst offender probably has to be the train level, which, as you saw earlier, is just an obnoxious parade of garish nonsense. What the hell are these things I'm jumping on? The enemies aren't much to write home about, so I'll skip them and talk about Spot himself, who looks pretty decent actually. They gave him quite a few frames of animation, so he moves nice and smooth. My favorite is his idle animation that kicks in when you stand still and has Spot snapping his fingers with a Scooby-Doo-wee and a Scooby-Doo-ow. It's just so silly and inappropriate given the circumstances, like when you're free falling and hit the ground and immediately you start Scooby-Doo-Boo-Doo-Ow. Also doesn't help that his finger snaps don't always sync up with the music, which annoyed me more than it should have. And speaking of the music, it's kind of decent with some jazzy riffs here. And some boogie-woogie shuffling there. It really plays into the cool vibe they're going for, I guess. So you can put down the ducky if you want to play the saxophone. Okay, alright, I'm done with that, I promise. The train level had some interesting music, which evoked everything from Old West saloons to Hockey Night in Canada. And the bonus level music reminded me of Super Monkey Ball, which I liked. So yeah, it's fine overall, and at no point gets on your nerves. The sound effects also get the job done, and they up-pitched some voice samples for Spot himself. Enemies die with an explosion sound, which is satisfying. You might not like the persistent sproing sound when Spot jumps, but it didn't bother me too much. In terms of whether you should seek out this game, well, there are a few things to consider. One thing this game has going for it is its difficulty. On easy mode, there are directional markers, less hazards, and enemies occasionally drop health. Hard mode is a whole other deal though, and to really beat the game for the true ending, you need to finish on hard mode and collect each letter from each bonus stage and not use any to continue. Once you do, you're greeted with this screen. Yeah, apparently there was a contest. If you took a picture of the true ending screen and sent it to Virgin Games HQ, you could have gotten a prize from them. It's explained in the manual, but as far as I'm aware, that was all BS, and there isn't anyone who is confirmed ever to have received a prize. But it will take you some time getting good and getting to that screen, which adds a bit of value. It's also a decently cheap game, coming in at around $20. You won't find any versions on a modern system either, so the original cart becomes even more worth getting. Bad news is, unless you're keen on chipping away at getting the true ending, you're going to absolutely smash this game in an evening and see little replay value. You could probably spend the $20 on something like NBA Jam Tournament Edition and get far more bang for your buck, if I'm being honest. But if you like kitschy branded games that are 100% a sign of their time, Cool Spot will not disappoint. I'm going to give it an overall score of 6.9 out of 10. It plays well and provides a decent challenge, but there are so many missed opportunities for it to be a better game that you might just want to go out and buy a better game. Sorry, Spot. Have fun.
Well, I'm the red dot that's back again. I hop on a ducky and I hop on a train. Bouncing on bubbles till I reach the top of a big old bottle of soda pop. Let me show you. They got my friends up in a cage. Yeah, coming in hot. I'm taking the shot. Everybody knows my name.
What's your name?
It's Cool Spot. spot. Scooby-Doo, wow, a cool spot. Well, all my eyes, a cool spot.